much for coming. I'm super stoked to see so many faces out there, and especially to see a lot of people that I don't know. A lot of times I think my friends just come to support me, which is lovely, and I see a lot of those faces too. But it's also really nice to know that we have a lot of new people or just people that I have not met before that have come to join us tonight. So for anybody who does not know me, my name is Anise Pleasure, and I'm the president and co-founder of Amplify Horse Racing. Our other co-founder is over there on the end. And I'm also the Equine Education Coordinator for the Kentucky Equine Education Project Foundation. Great name, another awesome organization to check out. And so I owe a thank you to several people. First and foremost, Keeneland. We really tested your guys' stamina for adding this on to the tail end of September sale, October race meet, Breeders' Cup, November sale, and then straight into this event. So thank you guys so much for hosting tonight. They did a beautiful job with setting all of this up for us. Tonight's going to be super casual. We're going to start out with our amazing panel, which I will introduce in a moment. And I really want this to be driven by your guys' questions. So I'm going to kick this off by asking some moderated questions for you guys to get to know our panelists a little bit more. And then once we wrap up after the first 20 to 30 minutes of me asking questions, I'm going to open it up to you guys. And I know we got a ton of questions from our RSVP form. How many of you guys RSVP'd? Just out of curiosity. Okay, basically everyone. So if you asked a question to the RSVP, I'm going to challenge you to be brave and actually just ask it in person rather than me waiting to ask it. So we're going to bring the mic around and open it up to you guys asking some of these amazing professionals for their insight on your questions. And then after we wrap up the panel portion, we're going to continue with the mingling that you were all doing in the beginning and have a great time, maybe exchange some business cards or some social media contact info, maybe get a new job or internship or something and have fun. So I want to kick this off, and you guys are going to have to share mics as well, so just hand them to each other. Where are you all from? City, state, country?
Hello, everybody. My name is Deja Robinson, and I am from Atlanta, Georgia, but I currently live in Lexington.
Yeah, I completely forgot to introduce them, so I should probably do that first, yeah? So I'm going to have you guys wave. We have Joe Nevills, Bloodstock editor for the Paulick Report. Deja Robinson, who is with Rood and Riddle. She's a nursery staff technician and Ed Brown Society and First scholar. Ferrin Peterson, who's a jockey and veterinarian. Brienne Sharp, who's a marketing research coordinator with Godolphin. Gustavo Marchesini, who's a bloodstock consultant from Brazil. And then we have Madison Scott, who's with Solis Lit Bloodstock and told me that she doesn't know her title. But she's very important within Solis Lit Bloodstock, and I know that she works all the time. So anyways, Deja is from Georgia, as she mentioned. Gustavo?
Yes, I'm from Brazil, and I lived in Brazil during 3 years, and now I'm back living in Brazil.
Oh, hi, I'm Brienne. I'm from Harrison, Arkansas. Grew up there, went to college there, and then moved to Lexington right after college in 2009. So I've lived here for about 13 years now. So I'm a Kentucky resident, but they will never convert me to being a Wildcat fan. Razorbacks all the way.
I'm Ferrin. I'm from Sacramento, California. With my riding career, I was in Southern California at Del Mar, then on the East Coast, Monmouth Park, New Jersey. Did a stint in New York, Maryland, and now I've been here in Lexington on this race circuit for a year.
My name is Joe Nevills. I'm from Edmore, Michigan. As a Michigander, I'm required to point on my hand where it's from. Out there. Moved to Kentucky in 2011 and currently live in Georgetown, about 30 minutes north of Lexington.
I'm Madison Scott. I'm from Austin, Texas, and moved up here to go to college at the University of Kentucky when I turned 18, and have been in Lexington for the most part since then and live here now.
So I love that. I kind of purposely tried to pick panelists that weren't from Kentucky, but it I didn't like go out of my way a whole lot. So I think it's really cool that after having reached out to you guys, I realized that all of you are from different places and you've moved here to Kentucky or travel here for work. So I've already introduced your guys' jobs, but there's a lot more to your roles than your job titles say. So I would love for each of you to go through and explain what your role entails on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so as a nursery staff technician at Rood and Riddle, a lot of my job is to care for the patients that come in. So I get there at 5:30 in the morning, and it's a 12-hour shift, but I love it. But throughout the day, you just go around, you're giving medicine, you're checking fluids, you're making sure bandages are in place, and really just making sure that I provide the utmost care to our patients that come into the hospital.
So basically work from home most of the time. And my day goes just talking with clients. My biggest client right now is a stallion. So I have to follow up with the breeders, with the book, and go to the racetrack to see the 2-year-old's training and talk with breeders, see how the foals are developing, and basically just follow up. And when it's sales time, just go to the sales, talk with clients, and try to buy something. And most of my job is just sitting in front of the computer, read and study all the time.
So I work in the office at John Abel Farm, just about 5 minutes down the road from here for Godolphin. And my role mainly is on the stallion marketing and promotion side of things for the Darley Stallions. So following the, race results and sales results for all of our stallions, and doing research and coming up with statistics and facts that we can use in our advertising and on our website and on social media and our brochures, as well as just for our salespeople to use face-to-face in promoting our stallions. So that would be the majority of my job, would be stallion focused. And then I also will do research projects relating to our racing stable and our breeding operation, just kind of using data to help us to make decisions as far as planning matings, which mares to keep versus sell, things like that as well. So basically just using data, using information to help us make decisions about our operation, and also mainly to help promote our stallions and sell seasons to our stallions.
So I go to the racetrack 7 days a week from 5:30 in the morning to 10 a.m., sometimes as many as 4 racetracks in a morning between here and Louisville and some of the farms to breeze horses and promote yourself to trainers. And then we ride races in the afternoon. So we'll have a few hours off in between. And as I mentioned, I'm also a veterinarian, so I work at Haggard in Georgetown. So some of the days I'll just go in for a few hours and I'm assisting in surgery there. And then I do some of the repro work in the spring. And then on dark days, which would be the non-race days, which is usually early in the week, I'll either be ratting in neighboring states, so Ohio or Indiana, or if I don't have mounts there, then I'll do a full day in the hospital. So I get to kind of keep my toe in everything.
I'm going to add, Ferrin has more energy than any other human being I have ever met, ever. Like, how you do that just baffles me, but you go, girl. I'm your biggest fan. Thank you.
How am I supposed to follow that? So I am the Bloodstock editor for the Paulick report. I cover topics including stallions, pedigrees, sales. I cover those on site. I've been out to the sale that's going on right now. I've been out to the stallion shows that have been happening around the farms. I also, because it's the Paulick report and everyone does a little bit of everything, I also sell advertising. I edit stories. I do stuff with social media, video. It's kind of a jack of all trades position, but the main focus is bloodstock coverage and advertising.
And I work for Solis Lit Bloodstock, which is comprised of Jason Litt, Alex Solis, and myself. So it's a small company, and like Joe said, with smaller companies and a lot of roles within this industry, you find yourself doing a lot of different things. My normal day-to-day is I work from home, just like Gustavo, but it's extremely varied within that. A huge portion of my time is at the sales, whether it's here or in Florida or Maryland or England, shortlisting, looking at horses, making recommendations, to our clients, helping them build their racing stables. We also spend a lot of time at the farms here locally, looking at our stock, going to the racetracks, watching horses train, communicating with trainers. And then I'm responsible for all of the background administrative stuff that goes into running racing stables and broodmare bands and all that good stuff. So a lot of different things that happen day to day, which makes it fun.
So I want to backtrack a little bit. A lot of the questions that were submitted by you guys when you RSVP'd centered around making connections in the industry. How do you make connections? How do you network? How do you move up? And I think the beauty of having a young professionals panel is that you guys are all thriving in your careers, but you're still, moving up. You're still all progressing. So how did you guys make the connections to get where you are right now? What did your journeys look like as you were getting involved in the industry?
So coming from Georgia, I really didn't have any thoroughbred experience. I started riding when I was 12, but thoroughbreds are a whole different ballgame in the racing industry. So when I came to Kentucky, I had a family friend who was a Bloodstock agent here. His great-great-grandfather was Man of War's groom. So he's had a long connection with the industry. And I really wanted to put myself out there because I quickly saw how important networking is in the industry. Like, you have to talk to people and get to know them. You really do, because it's also an industry where a lot of things are passed down by working closely with someone who is experienced or seasoned in the industry. But I sent emails, text messages, introducing myself and what I wanted to do. Like, you have time to go out to lunch, and really just taking that extra step to get to know people. Because the worst somebody can say is no. And if somebody says no, you can either try again later with that same person or find somebody else in the industry that could help you and willing to take the time to teach you.
Yeah, like her, I didn't have any connections to the horse industry. My parents don't even know what a horse is. And they were very, very concerned when I started going to the track. And my mom said, don't do it. And I kept going, and here I am. But I had to do it the hard way, just working hard and start getting to know people. And these people that I work for start telling other people about me. And that's how I came to the United States for the first time and kept coming back. And that's how I got all my opportunities. I don't think I ever done a job interview in my life. Just because people say, like, Gustavo, we got someone you can go work for, and they take their word and how just they're working.
Well, just like these two, I also didn't have any connections in the industry. Didn't grow up around horses at all, really. Got interested in racing when I was a teenager, just watching on TV, and became a fan. And moved to Kentucky after college to do the Kiwi program. Do we have some Kiwis here? Yeah, woohoo, awesome. Okay, and Leslie's here, obviously. So I went to college at the University of Arkansas. They have a small horse program there, so I was part of the horse program. That was my first hands-on horse experience at all. Like, learned how to put a halter on in college. So came here pretty green, had never touched a thoroughbred before. Leslie, thankfully, gave me a spot on the Kiwi program, did that for a year, and then went and did the Godolphin Flying Start program, which was a 2-year program. And so both of those, the Kiwi program and the Flying Start program, that was really how I met people and did my networking, was through those two programs. So came here not knowing a soul. I mean, I didn't know anybody in Kentucky when I moved here from Arkansas. So the Kiwi program obviously was great just to make friends initially, and still, several of my best friends in the industry are people that I've met during the Kiwi program. So that was incredible. And then doing the Flying Start program, getting to go around the world, and obviously spent 7 months in Kentucky during that program, got to meet a lot of people that way. And then as soon as I graduated from the Flying Start program, got a job here in Kentucky with Godolphin. So kind of like Gustavo, I've not really ever done a job interview either. Like, I kind of went to work for Godolphin right after Flying Start and have stayed there ever since. But I will say, like, I was kind of thinking about this earlier today, looking through the questions that Denise had sent through, and it's kind of interesting thinking about, like, I've had obviously a few mentors over the years, but really, now that I'm getting a little bit older, I think of it like the people that I came into the industry with, like my friends Kelsey and Brittany and Sean, who we came in, through Keeneland together, and people that I did Flying Start with, and have met through Flying Start. Like the people that were kind of my age when we all came into the industry together and didn't know anybody. Now, a lot of my friends are in, important jobs. I mean, obviously Anise and Hallie and my friend Kelsey, who runs the Lanes End account at Cornet. And so several of my friends who have moved into roles now that if I were 21 years old, I would think of them as a mentor and want to seek them out and ask them for advice, are some of my best friends that I came into the industry in as a young person. So really, it's kind of your peers that you're making friends with now in the industry that you will probably come to count on later on, 15 or 20 years from now, when you need advice or when you need a recommendation for a job. They're going to know somebody that can help you. So certainly it's important to find a few mentors that are older than you, that have more experience than you, but it's also important to make friends your own age that are coming into the industry at the same time, that will kind of grow in the industry together with you, and you can help each other along as you go. So
I love that you touched on that, because I was riding in my car today and had that kind of same aha moment. I was like, wow, these people that are my friends are like turning into industry leaders now, and people that I look up to. So I personally used to feel very, very intimidated by talking to, I guess, like industry professionals or people that were much older than me. I had really bad imposter syndrome. So I focused on networking amongst my peers and what I was comfortable with. And now those connections have served me really, really well. And I look up to all my friends. Ferrin?
So I also did not grow up with any horse racing connections. I grew up on the back of a horse. My mom rode, had an Arabian. And since I was young, I said I wanted to be a jockey. But then as I reached high school, I realized I didn't have any idea how to become a jockey. So I thought, well, I could be a racetrack vet and then get into it with that avenue, never thinking I would actually ride races. So then it became my ambition to just be as well-rounded as possible. And I wanted to get to Lexington at the heart of horse racing. So I came out here for an internship. Then I worked the yearling sales, and like Deja was saying, where it's different working around thoroughbreds than just any other type of horse. So I really wanted to work with them on the ground. Then when I started vet school at UC Davis, I worked at a breeding farm. So I would stay there over the night, deliver foals. Then I started working for the repro vet and the breeding shed. And then they had a small track, and they would start the babies there. So I wanted to learn how to break the thoroughbred. And from there, the owner of the farm was also a trainer at Golden Gate Fields, which is an hour away. So I started going out to the racetrack every morning and galloping and learning that. And then people said, well, you should ride races. So my last 2 years of vet school, I decided to just ride races part-time and just had success with it and started winning races. But so many times from my very first thoroughbred internship, I was denied, and I just kept knocking on those doors. And every time a vet wouldn't respond to my email, I would just go to the next person and just like keep knocking on doors, and don't let a no stop you, and don't let it discourage you. And now in retrospect, I see how much it's helped me grow. Because as a jockey, I have to go up to trainers, and I mean, I'm coming up to Hall of Fame trainers, trying to sell myself and say that I should be the next jockey on their nice racehorse over these other jockeys. And so to just get comfortable with, like you were saying, the worst thing you can be told is no, but if you don't try, they're never going to consider you. And so that was really important for me. And then I think too, having to start from the ground up, I'm really grateful for, because now you understand what goes into making this industry go on, and to have both sides of like the breeding and see them as young foals and then be riding them, and then now as a vet, I get to work with them as broodmares and stallions. And so I think it's really important to understand the full life cycle of a horse. And the more things you can do, just the more it's going to help you grow as a horse person or as a business person, and to be able to relate to other people that you're working alongside.
So my journey up kind of had two separate parts to it. I got my base locally. My grandpa bred and raced low-level claiming horses at the tracks around Michigan. I'm from a town of about 2,000 people, very small, but I was very fortunate that it happened to house the state's largest trainer and the state's largest breeder, both of whom very patiently took me on the hour-and-a-half drive to Great Lakes Downs whenever I asked them to. I'd pick their brain coming to and from, And I got a really good base for how the game worked, how the business worked. Got some sort of hands-on experience with some of these horses, and that was very helpful. It helped me realize that I wanted to be part of this. The racetrack is a prism that always helped the world make sense to me. So I went to college at Central Michigan University for journalism, and in 2008 I applied for Thoroughbred Times and for an internship with Thoroughbred Times. And this is where part 2 comes along, because this is where I reached that next level to get into the major industry stuff, graded stakes races, those major trainers that you see on TV, people that you kind of grow up idolizing, and getting that experience on the editorial side too, working with people that you've read about, thinking, boy, I want to write like them someday. So I had the internship, it went fantastic, I was so happy, and when I went home to Michigan, my sole goal was, how do I get back to Kentucky? So I started my own blog, the Michigan Bred Claimer, and covered any racing event that I could regularly. I became a regular presence on social media in the very first years of Twitter. You could really stand out because there really weren't that many people on Twitter at that time. So I hounded Thoroughbred Times for a good 3 years while I was still in college and after I graduated. I'd drive down from Michigan to Kentucky. That's about an 8-hour drive. I would help them cover the Kentucky Derby. I'd help them cover Keeneland, the Preakness, just on a freelance basis. I would take freelance assignments from whoever I could. And then in 2011, an opening came available, and I had been enough of a presence that I was the person that they called. So that was my first full-time gig, and I've been working full-time in turf riding ever since.
Like everyone else on the panel, I come from a not horse background in any way, shape, or form. I got into the industry in 2004. That was my first exposure when Smarty Jones was running for the Triple Crown. Brienne is also a big Smarty Jones fan. And when he was running in the Belmont, I had never even watched a horse race. And no one in my family had any interest, but we turned on the TV that day and watched Smarty Jones unfortunately lose the Triple Crown. But something in me had been like awoken, and I was just obsessed. And I started writing fan mail to Three Chimneys Farm here in Lexington, where Smarty Jones retired to stud. Yeah, yes, as Ann can attest, I literally never went away from when I was 10 to now still. And started writing fan mail, and I was very fortunate early on that Three Chimneys recognized the importance of responding to someone like me, large part thanks to Ann Hayes, who's in the back, and they responded to my letters and sent me Smarty Jones hats and stallion brochures, and really kind of nurtured my interest. Without something like that happening at like such a formative time in my life, I don't know if this is a avenue I would have continued down, not knowing anyone in the game and having no association with horses or racing at all. Fortunately for me, they did. I never went away. As I grew, I kind of followed Smarty Jones's foals as they were racing and learned a lot about the life cycle of the industry that way, from the sales to watching the horses race and compete to following them in their show careers and careers off the track afterwards. So when I decided I wanted to come to Lexington to work in racing, came to the University of Kentucky and interned at Three Chimneys Farm when I first got up here for college. And as I think everyone can probably say, once you're in the industry and once you kind of do have a full-time gig, like there's no shortage of opportunity. Once you start meeting people within the game and within Kentucky and Lexington specifically, where there's so many opportunities and it's so concentrated, there's just never-ending doors that can open for you. And while I was in college, I tried to work and intern at a variety of different places. Three Chimneys, a breeding farm, Shawhan Place. I helped a vet. I was at Blood Horse. Like, I did anything and everything I could to try to learn more about racing and to meet the people within the game. I was very fortunate while I was at Three Chimneys. I met Jason Lick, who's my current employer. Someone I met when I was 18 and was like a mentor to me, has been my boss now for 4 years. And thanks to a lot of those connections I was able to make, through college and working hard and always wanting to learn, I was able to get on the Flying Start program that Brienne touched on briefly, which was a terrific experience, 2 years traveling the world, going racing, learning. And then once I graduated from that program, I started to work for Silly Slip Bloodstock, where I am now, where I've been for the last 4 years.
couple big things that I hear from all of your stories are the importance of persistence, and then having a good understanding of a broad range of topics within the industry, or being able to see the broader picture and how different parts of the industry and the people overlap, because it's a small world in life, but it's an even smaller world in the thoroughbred industry. So being able to know about a lot of aspects and know a lot of people are really valuable. But I want to get into some of your career areas specifically. So Ferrin and Deja, this next question is for you guys. A lot of young people reach out to me about interest in pre-vet, or they're pursuing a pre-vet path, or they're interested in getting involved in the veterinary world. From both of your guys' experiences thus far, what would you recommend to someone who's maybe on that pre-vet path or wants to work in equine healthcare in some capacity?
I would say, as a recent graduate, to, again, not be afraid to seek information, to ask, to message vets, or even shadow broodmare managers at 3 Chimneys, actually, just to see how it all works. But to mention them, hey, can I shadow you for a day? Even if it doesn't always have to be paid, but just to get that experience and that exposure. And to not be afraid to work, like many of us have said. So to wake up those early mornings, and to show that, you want to be dedicated to that, and to learn, and to not be discouraged, especially for those who are pre-vet. Those classes can be a beast. I definitely understand that. But if it's really what you want to do and that's what you feel in your heart, to keep that in your heart, and to not be discouraged by terminology or jargon that's used, and the overwhelming amount of information. Kind of take it as a challenge, like we said, to learn more. And yes, I would say that's what I would have to say. Just really take every opportunity that you can.
And even if you want to become a vet, if that's the path that you're on and you realize that's not for you, that's not the only job in the equine healthcare world. I'm sure you could name like 10 different positions amongst all the people that you work with.
What
I'm not testing you. Yeah, quiz time, 10 positions. No, but vet techs, and there's people that are, I'm not as knowledgeable about it as you are, but that are checking in patients as they come in, administrative roles, admissions,
imaging assistants. Like there are a lot of other positions where you don't just have to be super hands-on with the horse, but still make the world go around, or even make the clinic operate as it should. Like there's just so many pieces to it, and that's also the beautiful thing of it.
Ferrin?
Yeah, I would say shadow as many people as you can, and not necessarily what you think you want to do, but get a range. The great thing about being a veterinarian is at any point in your career, I could be doing horses for 20 years, and if I decide I want to be an exotics vet, well, you're trained to be able to do any species, so you can make that jump. Versus being an MD, you're specialized in one thing, so that is a great thing about the occupation. But it is a huge commitment. It's a 4-year bachelor's, and it's grueling classes, and then 4-year doctorate degree, and a lot of money. And like we were talking about with shadowing and internships, most of the time they aren't paid, but I kept thinking about it as an investment in my future career. So just put your head down and work, but also really know, is this the avenue that I want to go into? I had a few friends in our last year of vet school, which is the clinical year when you're most exhausted and overworked and underappreciated. And some of them were saying, I wonder if I actually want to be a vet, or if it was my parents' pressure to become a vet. And I thought, that's just really sad. Whereas for me, I really knew this is my passion. Even if I'm pursuing 2 passions simultaneously with the riding, like I've put the work and dedication in, and the more I do it, the more convinced I am that I'm on the right route. So, it's not a bad thing if you decide you don't want to be a vet. Like we're saying, there are a lot of avenues, but I think being a veterinarian is a really just a fun profession, and you really feel like you're helping, which I just think it's something that I'll want to do as long as my body is capable. And you see so many vets who don't want to retire, not just because, like they'll say, I have my debts paid off, but they just love working with the animals, and it's something that you're learning and building on every single day, because the animals will always teach you something new.
So Joe, your job touches on a lot of different aspects of media, from written media and journalism to digital media to social media, which we got a lot of questions about that as well. How have you seen media kind of change since you got in the industry? And then do you have any social media tips for people who, because we already touched on Twitter, that's an important platform for connecting and networking. So any social media networking tips?
So the first part of that, when I started with Thoroughbred Times in 2011, when I moved down to Kentucky, I had a prepaid flip phone. No camera on it. It hardly texted, nothing. In that time, technology has moved to the point where I have a professional grade camera with me at all times. And this thing is absolutely crucial to what I do on a daily basis, from posting social media, from taking pictures, to taking professional quality video. Storytelling is no longer just about the words. The words are important, but you have to be able to also be a cinematographer. You have to be a photographer. You have to be a good interviewer for camera and not just get the words out of someone to make it look good on a page, but to get them to say them in a way that's compelling on video. So the demands of what a journalist is in 2022 versus what it was in just 10 years ago is completely different. And it's just because of this thing. There's so much, you can do so many different things. As for advice on social media, my best advice is assume that everyone is watching, for good or for bad. If you say something stupid, it will come back to you. You will get a reputation, and that's the kind of thing that when interviews happen, people will remember that. If you display knowledge, if you display that you know what you're talking about, you can be cordial, you can have good conversations, you're not a troll, unless your job requires you to be a troll. Sometimes there's positions for that. Just don't be a jerk online. It's not that hard. And the benefits greatly weigh out the disadvantages most of the time.
So, let's see, Brianne, I'm going to go to you. I was so amazed when I learned that you had taught yourself how to code. And so that is such a unique skill set that not a lot of people have. And I think all of you guys in different ways have found ways to differentiate yourself from the crowd so that you're not just, involved in marketing. You have this other very unique piece to add on to it. So I guess what prompted you to do that? How do you stand out within your role?
Yeah, it was just kind of a random encounter, actually. So I'd been working, in research for a couple years, and was just having a conversation with somebody talking about my job and what I do, doing research mainly for stallions. And he said, what do you use as a resource? Do you code? And I was like, no, I just use Excel. I didn't know there was anything beyond Microsoft Excel. And he said, well, you should learn SQL, which is a programming language that you basically it's a step up from Excel to interact with data. He said, you should learn it. It'll make your life way easier. It's way better than Excel. So I was like, okay, I have no idea what that means. But I went, this was maybe 4 years ago, and I went and Googled it and Googled what is SQL and started taking classes online and just loved it and became a total computer nerd. And I never took a computer science class in college. Had never taken an interest in it until I saw that it would make what I do easier. And so I think if I had taken a computer science class in college, I probably would have found it really boring because I wouldn't have seen what I could use it for. But once I saw, I can make a database of stud fees and of pedigrees and race results and then query it, write a SQL query and get an answer back instantaneously rather than having to pore over race results for hours, which is what I had basically done before. And so I started reading a few books, took some classes online, and then after I kind of mastered that, I started learning to program in Python, which is another kind of all-purpose programming language, and took, again, just kind of codeacademy.com is a great resource, datacamp.com is another really good resource, and just started kind of taking some basic classes online, bought some books off Amazon, read them, watched a lot of YouTube videos. YouTube is awesome. So watched a lot of YouTube videos and just kind of self-taught, especially during COVID, which was great because, obviously everybody was stuck at home for a long time during COVID. And work was a bit quiet at that time as well. So I thought, well, might as well make an investment in myself during this time. So I watched a lot of YouTube videos on programming. definitely sound like a nerd right now. But it was great, and it definitely has made a huge difference in what I do, and has helped me tremendously to move up in my current role, because as you say, it's kind of helped to differentiate me to where now I'm kind of the only person in the office who can do something. So like I wrote a program to pull a list from our database of any mares that, according to their due date, should have come to our stallions but haven't come yet. And it used to be that our sales team had to look through those manually every day, and now I wrote a script that sends them an email every morning with those mares. So now that they can immediately pick up the phone and call and say, this mare should have been here, she hasn't come yet, is she not coming? And they can say, oh yeah, she, Paulick, she's not going to be coming this year, and they can resell that season. So it's something that's actually, making a difference within the company. So just little things like that has definitely helped me. And like you say, like it is important to kind of differentiate yourself, because there's a lot of people that know about stallions or know about marketing, but if you have an extra skill that maybe nobody else that's applying for a job has, that can make a difference within the company and help you to do things more efficiently or faster, it definitely will help you out. So it's been a really cool journey, and yeah, I love that.
So before I open it up to your guys' questions, which we're getting to that point, Gustavo and Madison, you guys are both involved in Bloodstock. I've had a lot of young people reach out to me, and I know to my colleagues too, and they say, I want to be a Bloodstock agent. And they immediately want to go out to a sale with, somebody and be helping to buy horses immediately. But you guys both had so many experiences, hands-on with horses, travel experiences before you could get to this point of working in Bloodstock. So what were some of the hands-on experiences that you guys both had that you find really beneficial, that you still pull from today when you're, say, going out to the sales and picking out horses for people?
Yeah, so I'd say there's no hands-on experience within any facet of like horse or horse racing that is not useful. Like I touched on, my role encompasses a lot of different things. So whether it's, my experience just riding horses for fun and helping be able to place RX race horses with people, like that's beneficial, even though it doesn't have to do with the racing part necessarily. For the sales more specifically, something that was very important, and, anyone will tell you, is to go work on a breeding farm, understand the life cycle of a horse, like Ferrin was discussing, yearling prep, working in yearling prep, understanding like what goes into making, helping these horses look their best and bringing them along the whole time, and seeing some of the different quirks that they have is so important, and just important to appreciate everything that goes in it too. Not just from the just looking at the horse physically, their condition, but maybe like their feet. If you work on a farm and the blacksmith is coming out to do, some corrective trimming on foals, like you can take that as an opportunity to ask like what they're doing and see how they're trimming a horse, and try to see how those things like make changes over time. Because when you do get to a sale, like the horses look their best, you want to try to understand like what went into making that horse look that way. Working on a farm and sales prep is huge. Obviously the racetrack, any hands-on experience there is key as well. You've got to understand what these horses have to be put through to make a racehorse. I don't think anyone can appreciate that really until like you do work in a training barn. You watch horses go train every day, and you watch them breeze, and you see what the 2-year-olds do, and go into the gate the first time. All that kind of stuff just creates the full picture of it. Sales can be challenging because you just see that horse for a snapshot in time. There's been so much life and planning and work that's gone into creating that horse. So I think trying to understand and appreciate that and help use that information going forward to help try to make the best decisions that you can is critical.
Gustavo?
I don't think I have much to add to what she said, but basically hands-on experience and can make you understand what's going on with the horse at a sale. And if you're working a farm, you're gonna learn what it takes to get a horse there, and you understand what works, what doesn't, and what kind of problems you can have for doing this stuff or that stuff. And if you have experience in training yard, for example, you can learn how to work through what people call problems during the sales. If this horse is not correct or X-ray findings, there's a lot of things you can work through, and even some trainers can work through some problems others don't, that the horse will feed or not, their problem. So every kind of hands-on experience is essential. It's hard to just come here to the sale and look at a horse and find it's beautiful and make it work. You need to understand what's going on.
I think there's a lot of people who fall in love with pedigrees and they find that really fascinating, which it is. But like you guys just touched on, there's so much more. A horse is not a piece of paper. They're a physical, living, breathing creature, and, understanding them will tell you a lot. So I do want to open it up to you guys. I've been talking for a long time. So if anybody has a question, raise your hand and I will bring you a mic so that you can ask it yourself.